Have you ever really stopped to wonder how different countries actually run themselves? You see the daily debates in the UK Parliament, then you see the fixed four-year term of a US president, and you realize the very architecture of government shapes pretty much everything. Okay, so let's dive into this and unpack three really distinct blueprints for power.
This is the classic question, isn't it? We hear the terms president and prime minister all the time, and it's easy to think they're kind of the same. But the difference is so much more than just a title. It really points to two fundamentally different ways of thinking about power, about accountability, and, ultimately, about how a country actually gets things done.
So let's start with two of the most influential blueprints for democracy out there, the systems of the United Kingdom and the United States. You can almost think of them as the original open-source code that so many other nations have copied, tweaked, and built upon over the years.
First up, let's talk about the UK's parliamentary system. It's often called the Westminster model, and it is without a doubt one of the oldest and most influential systems of government on the entire planet.
Okay, so the most crucial point is right here. In a parliamentary system, the executive branch, that's the people who run the government day to day, they can only stay in power as long as they have the support of the legislature, of parliament. There's no fixed term for the government like a president has. If they lose support, they can be out. Simple as that.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at how interconnected everything is. The executive, the people in charge, they aren't some separate team. No, they are literally drawn from the legislature. This means the prime minister and their whole cabinet are also sitting members of parliament. It creates this fusion of power where the government is constantly answerable, like in real time, to the very body it came from.
And this quote just brilliantly nails the core principle. Because the government's very survival depends on keeping the confidence of Parliament, it's constantly being scrutinized. This isn't just about an election every few years. It's a system of ongoing, daily accountability.
Okay, so let's switch gears and move to our second blueprint. You'll see how this builds a very different structure. We're crossing the Atlantic to look at the presidential system, with the United States as our main model.
And boom, here is the stark contrast. In the US model, the executive's term is fixed. The president is elected for 4 years, and that term is completely independent of what the legislature, Congress, thinks about their performance. They can't be removed just because they've lost political support.
This entire system is built on one core idea, the separation of powers. Think of it like this. The president and their team are on one track, and Congress is on another. They're elected separately. The president's cabinet answers only to the president, not to Congress. They are designed to be two distinct, co-equal branches of government that sometimes work together and, well, sometimes work in opposition to each other.
Now, this separation is completely deliberate. The framers of the US Constitution were really worried about concentrating too much power in any one place. The result is this incredibly complex dance of checks and balances, where the executive, legislative, and judicial branches are all designed to limit each other's power. And a perfect example of this is judicial review. Think about this for a second. This is the immense power of the Supreme Court to look at a law that was passed by Congress and signed by the president and just say, nope, this violates the Constitution. It is one of the ultimate checks in the entire system.
You gotta love this quote from George Washington. It just perfectly captures another one of those internal checks. The idea was that the House of Representatives, since it's more directly elected by the people, might be prone to populist passions. That's the boiling tea. The Senate was designed to be the more deliberative, slow-moving body, the saucer, to cool things down and take a longer view.
So let's just put them side by side for a second. It really boils down to this, doesn't it? Do you want a system where the executive is fused with the legislature for that daily accountability like in the UK? Or do you want one where they're separate with a fixed term where accountability really just comes at the ballot box every few years? They're two fundamentally different answers to the exact same question: how should power be structured?
All right, now, let's pivot to a system that operates on a completely different philosophy of power. The People's Republic of China offers a really stark contrast to both the parliamentary and the presidential models we've been talking about.
The foundational principle here is the leadership of a single party. It's written right into the Constitution. The Communist Party is supreme, and it guides all the highest organs of state power, including the National People's Congress. Now, the system operates on this fascinating principle called democratic centralism. You can kind of think of it in two parts. The democratic part allows for some debate and discussion within the party while the policy is being formed. But, and this is a big but, once the central leadership makes a final decision, that debate is over. The centralism part kicks in, and strict obedience is required from everyone all the way down the line. So if you just look at the structure on paper, you'll see the National People's Congress as the highest state authority and the State Council as the main administration. But in practice, the real power, the thread that connects literally everything, is the absolute leadership of the Communist Party. It has ultimate control over every single lever of power, especially the armed forces.
So what can we take away from these three very different models? Well, it really seems that choosing a system of government isn't about finding some perfect solution. It's really about making a series of trade-offs between competing values.
This table really brings those trade-offs into sharp focus. With the UK's parliamentary system, you get efficiency and direct responsibility, but the price you might pay is an executive that completely dominates the legislature. In the US presidential system, you get stability and checks on power, but the price is often political gridlock where it feels like nothing gets done. And with China's system, you get incredible speed and centralized control, but the price is a lack of the kind of democratic accountability seen in the other models. Each system is prioritizing something different.
And that leaves us with a final, really big question to think about. When you look at all the challenges facing the world today, which of these values do you think is the most important? Is it the efficiency to act quickly, the stability to weather political storms, or is it that constant, daily accountability of leaders to the people? There's no single right answer, of course, but how a nation chooses to answer that question, well, that reveals everything about its priorities.